This is the ultimate camera comparison video of iPhone 15 Pro Max and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. The battle of flagship Samsung versus Apple. Who will win? Let's find out. Let's talk about the colors and the differences of the two flagship phones. I mean, if you're contemplating on buying either iPhone 15 Pro Max or Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, I'm pretty sure you'll be happy owning any of these two phones. I mean, seriously, although there are differences in terms of colors, and I would talk about that in just a few seconds, I feel that both phones will produce flagship-grade images, and everything that we will talk about today will just be subjective based from your preference. There are certainly differences and pros and cons about these two phones, but in terms of color science, both phones stick to their true identity. Let's start with iPhone 15 Pro Max. It has triple camera setup and the images are defaulting to 24 megapixel, but I'm glad to tell you that in average, an image is more or less 6 megabytes. Maybe double the size of what other phone produces, but the quality is really good. The colors are mostly on the warmer side, and the colors I feel is a little bit saturated than last year's iPhone 14 Pro Max. And like the typical Apple fashion, iPhone 15 Pro Max crushes the blacks and more contrasty. While Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra sports a quad camera setup with a huge 200 megapixel sensor, it uses pixel binning technology to output 12 megapixel, but weird enough, it outputs an image close to 10 megabytes, twice the size of iPhone 15 Pro Max. Photos have more details into it, and you can see that it's brighter than the Apple counterpart. It exposes the scene better, and I can tell you that the AI optimizer just blows the colors on some of the images that even myself, sometimes I'll be caught off guard like, wow, this came from a smartphone. But other than that, I think if you don't do a side-by-side comparison of these two phones, iPhone and Samsung colors are close, not like the natural colors of the computational photography of Google. But if you like those punchy-looking Instagram-ready photos, then I would go with either of these two phones. And looking at all sensors from ultra-wide, wide, and telephoto, the colors and saturation is consistent. The 10 times optical zoom of Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is just a little bit washed out. Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is more future-proof than iPhone 15 Pro Max because it has 8K 30 FPS video recording. If you like this type of camera comparison video, don't forget to subscribe. This is the action mode on iPhone 15 Pro Max. It's in 2.8K and super steady video on Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra in Quad HD. This is the video zoom test. While Samsung Galaxy S23 is closer, iPhone 15 Pro Max is sharper. This is the cinematic video. Both phones can shoot 4K. I like the contrast and colors of iPhone 15 Pro Max, but the subject separation still goes to Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Let's talk about flaring, and I don't know if Apple puts a new coating on the lenses. The flaring issue is now fixed on the new iPhone 15 Pro Max, but on night situations where there's a strong light source, you still have the harsh flaring on iPhone 15 Pro Max. Exposure and dynamic range is really good on Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. If you zoom in on this photo, you can see that the trees are well lit compared to iPhone 15 Pro Max. But hey, the more contrasty image of iPhone 15 Pro Max is not that bad. Next is macro shot versus close focus, and iPhone 15 Pro Max can shoot macro using the ultra-wide lens. You can also do this on S23 Ultra using the 3 times optical zoom, but the main sensor also offers the close focus that gives you that awesome subject separation. Sharpness is also really good on both phones from the ultra-wide, wide, and optical zoom across all sensors. It's stack sharp, but nothing beats the 100 times phase zoom of Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. And lastly, details. Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra has 200 megapixel sensor that pixel bins to output 12 megapixel image, and with this sensor, it will eat iPhone 15 Pro Max alive. Disclaimer on the video stabilization test while running, I'm actually shaking the phones a little bit to see how good the stabilization is. Let's start with the ultra-wide lens, and again, I'm shaking this phone a little bit, and you can still see that S23 Ultra is superior than iPhone 15 Pro Max. This is the main sensor, and again, I think it's the same story. It's a little bit shaky on iPhone 15 Pro Max. and using the 5 times optical zoom of iPhone 15 Pro Max and 3 times and 10 times of Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra respectively. This is the selfie video recording in 4K 30fps. I like the contrast of S23 Ultra, but iPhone 15 Pro Max is brighter and the stabilization is a little bit better. This is the slow motion shot. And this is the super slow motion. Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is just freezing the time. This is the ultimate shootout of the new iPhone 15 Pro Max and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. We have a lot of flagship phones from Xiaomi, Vivo, Huawei, and other Chinese phones, but these are the most anticipated camera comparison videos together with Google Pixel 8 Pro. Honestly, if you're eyeing on both phones and you want to know which phone will give you the best camera performance, I would say these two phones are probably on the top 3 in terms of camera performance. The Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra was released February of this year. It has a quad camera setup of 200 megapixel main, 10 megapixel 3 times optical zoom, 10 times periscope telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultrawide. The 12 megapixel selfie camera can shoot up to 4K 60 fps, but the rear camera can shoot up to a whopping 8K 30 fps. Well, the new iPhone 15 Pro Max, aside from the camera, it has the A17 Bionic Pro. It also has a new USB Type-C port. It has a triple camera setup with 48 megapixel main, 12 megapixel telephoto, and 12 megapixel ultrawide. Together with a 12 megapixel selfie, all sensors can shoot up to 4K 60 fps. In terms of price, both phones are pretty expensive. So after this video, which do you think is better? Portrait mode is outstanding on these two phones, although there are similarities, but there are big differences between iPhone 15 Pro Max and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. Let's start with similarities. These two phones have really good portrait cutout. Whatever technology Apple and Samsung is using, it's working. I just noticed that the background blur in Samsung Galaxy S23 is stronger by default, while you would see a little bit of gradual blur on iPhone 15 Pro Max. I think the biggest difference is how portrait mode is being done. iPhone 15 Pro Max is more natural looking. People who want to see details on their face will love it. Sometimes unflattering because you would see every single imperfection on your face. While Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra is built to show off those nice portrait shots, the filters on Samsung Flagship is a little bit heavy that makes the skin brighter and smoothens the face, as you can see in every single image. Both phones can shoot 1x and then 2x and 3x respectively, but iPhone 15 Pro Max can reach up to 5x or 85mm equivalent. For night shots, we might have a new winner. The new sensor of iPhone 15 Pro Max is built for those low-light scenarios. Starting with Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra, it's not as bad as you would think. I feel like it's still one of the strongest smartphones for night shot. It has a neutral tone compared to iPhone 15 Pro Max. I just don't like the purplish color of the sky, but that's just me. What I like about iPhone 15 Pro Max is the sharpness of every single night shots. If you would zoom in on all the images I shot during this test, you would see that iPhone 15 Pro Max is a tad sharper than Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. And I think for many that's enough to merit a really good night shots for a smartphone. Also, the colors are popping out and the white balance is a little bit on the warmer side. And lastly, the low-light video recording, it's almost the same, but I don't like the purplish tint and the artifacts on the S23 Ultra. At the end of this low-light video test, check this out.
Earth keep me energized, gas pay my hydro bill, working on the enterprise, never had a time to kill, even still, in low tides, kept the even keel, got a beat to kill, left the ashes in the sea to spill, see, the seas filled and they did the wave, license from the gods.
So this is the ultimate shootout of iPhone 15 Pro Max and Samsung Galaxy S23 Ultra. These are really good flagship phones this year. Of course, Samsung Galaxy S24 Ultra will be at the start of 2024. This is where the conversation starts in the comment section because I think and I feel that will be a hard sell for iPhone 15 Pro Max if they're just banking on the camera performance. The only thing I see on this test is the low light performance. But I heard for some, whoever controls the low light condition should be the winner. But from 8K video recording, slow motion, video stabilization, and that impressive 100 times space zoom, you may find some YouTubers that will pick iPhone 15 Pro Max as the winner because it's the new phone right now. But for me, still, S23 Ultra is superior. And there you go. Hope you enjoyed this video. I'll continue to compare these two phones in our channel, maybe the next Google Pixel 8 Pro, so stay tuned. And as always, thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you in the next one.